Hey guys, happy Friday. Hope everybody had a great week. We did. Um, it's been getting very nice around here, which is very welcoming for me. I hate the cold, so I'm all about, it getting warmer and I'm digging watching the flowers bloom on the trees. I'm ready for it. I need it. My body definitely needs it. Um, we have March here with us tonight, and we're going to hang out, talk recovery. And if you guys are out there, if anybody is struggling and needs to, you know, get some suggestions or have any questions, please feel free to either call in at the call in line 267-737-8031, or if you do have the capabilities of popping in a comment, feel free to pop in the comments. Give us a hello if you're out there, so we know you're there. And if you don't mind hitting the share, like, and subscribe button, you never know who may need to hear something. We do have these shows, and the shows are recorded, so you can always go back if there's something that you want to rewatch, or you miss something, you can always go back to rewatch it as well. Um, Today ends Women's History Month, so next week it'll be blended with men and women again. And we have a good lineup next month. We have a few people coming in to share their experiences in recovery. Lane is helping us out tonight. He likes to come out to the studio. So when he gets loud, we'll throw him out. Yeah. Oh, you're going to tell them your letters? So, but we're just going to talk recovery. And if you, need us, we're here and we can answer questions or share our experiences. Marge is a family member, so not in recovery herself, as am I. And Pappy is watching inside the house. He gave up the studio, but I know he won't last long.
Well, I don't know, Lori. I always say that I'm in recovery, though.
Well,
I've
yes.
had to change a lot of my behaviors, a lot of my ideas, and working my program. I've got my own program I'm working.
Exactly. And we are, but we're not. We're normies in recovery.
I'm trying to recover from codependency,
Yes.
and enabling, and
Exactly. Hello, Larry out there, and Marge out there. And we are, I remember in the beginning, my loved one was like, "What do you mean they're talking about you in recovery?" Like, hello, we've been through some shit. Like, this is not an easy disease to deal with. It's, it affects everybody. And our loved ones don't realize that a lot of times. Even though they do feel guilt and shame and everything, they just don't realize what the family goes through with it. So, with that being said, yes, you better believe we're in recovery.
Yeah.
And waiting for our 28-day program. I'll take the beach, please. But yeah, that's, it's a hard disease to think about on our end. We always think like, oh well, it's their thing, they'll go get the help, and we'll just be here, and not realizing that a lot of the times we can be the problem because of our enabling.
right, or we're not making anything better by the way that we communicate,
Right.
and with our fear and our anger, and we really need to check our own emotions
Yep.
in catastrophizing too.
And that is, it's an awfulizing, like it's, and we don't, and we just need to learn and see things in a different light, and learn that we ourselves can either do things differently, talk differently, and find the support that we need, because just as our loved ones need that support, we need that support. And there's no better place to go than whatever program you choose to work. It's just a matter of finding the right fit for you, and there are so many different avenues for the family to check out. And
There are tons. I mean, I've done the Naranon, which was very, very helpful for me. The Sesh book, love, love, love. But I have gravitated more towards being able to do the crosstalk in the support meetings. But also during COVID, I had been involved with a lot of Zooms. For me, it was okay. I learned, I was on Zooms with people in California. I mean, all over the country.
right.
I've educated myself, learned more, but there also is something to say for getting involved in your local support
Yeah.
group, because that helps so many loved ones, or parents or wives or husbands, when you are looking for a program for your loved one. So really getting connected to something local and not just relying on that Zoom there's lots of networking to be had. And there's tons of treatment centers out there, and they're not all the same. And the only way you're going to find out that, I mean, you can call and interview them and ask questions, but it's very, very helpful to know someone who's already sent somebody they know there.
And it is, and that is the one thing that I loved about Livingren is the family support. You don't get the education and the support like Livingren, like that. They had so much help and so much interest in the family being part of the recovery process.
And it's important. It's very, very important. Because if you don't, even when it comes down to the fact that when your loved one comes home, and how selfish they still are, in a sense, because they got to do their meetings and they got to do this, and you're like, hey, you're home. You did your 30 days or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Now I
Take
need
the
you
trash
back.
out.
I need you back here to, like, we're supposed to be a normal family now.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work that way.
No.
And you get the education with that.
Yep.
Yeah.
You do, and the thing is, and it's my son. Everybody knows. I always just say my loved one, but it is my son, and it is a little different for me because it is my son. I didn't have to worry about his bills. I didn't have to worry about the money that he owed. I didn't have to worry about, him paying the mortgage or helping pay the mortgage. Where our spouses, when they're in recovery, that's a whole other ball game, because not only are they gone for possibly the 90-day program, they're also not helping with mortgage, helping with bills, helping with car payments, helping with the kids or around the house. So now it's all put on whichever spouse is affected. And we get a lot of resentment when they're away, because it's like, they're getting massages and they're getting the therapy and they're getting this and they're doing yoga, and we're sitting here and we don't even have time to do, our nails or, bake a cake, because we're always running. We're working, we're running and doing all that. So, That's a tough one for a spouse. And as far as being a parent, it's knowing that, we need to step back. We need to let them do what they need to do for themselves. That's so important.
Yes. Yep.
Hey, Kathleen, John, you need a partner, not a project. But mental health and addiction, same thing. If you don't work it, your problems, they may never go away. And it is true. It is working a program. And not everybody finds the right fit with different meetings. So you have to experiment. You have to go out there and see what's available. And
Well, again, too, I found out about other meetings through going to one meeting
yep,
and networking.
yeah, and it is, and it's a shame because I really haven't been seeing a lot of events. Before, when I first was affected by this, there were events everywhere. There were town hall meetings. There was just so much information out there. And now, since COVID, there's, you don't see much events happening. So we're not networking like we used to because it's just not out there in the forefront anymore. COVID kind of, took away from all of that, not being able to come together and do these things. One of the biggest things that was affected was the walk for
Right.
ProAct.
Right. I was looking forward to that. I had never experienced it, and I could not believe it was canceled.
Yes, and the saddest part, and I hope they really think about it and they go back to it. It does not look like they're going to be doing it in Penn's Landing anymore. So that is very upsetting for me because that was such an amazing place to find those connections because you had everything. You had lawyers, you had police, you had recovery houses, you had rehabs, you had mental health, you had insurance, you had anything out there to do with recovery. Family resources, everything would come together. Like Penn's Landing was just loaded with tables full of information and speakers. It was just so amazing. You're good.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, y'all.
You're good.
Sorry, y'all.
But it's just so sad that it looks like that's going to be in the past. They will still be doing the walk. The walk will be in the areas. So we live in the area closest to ProAct in Bristol. So I think they did last year. Hey, Eric. Last year they did, oh my gosh, Silver Lake. Livengren did their own part at the Garden of Reflection. Some of the other ones went to Philadelphia. So it was all over, and it looks like each facility is going to be doing their own area. So I just think that is so sad for the families today because and to see 30,000 people like in an area getting that information and hugging each other and being grateful to see that, that person made it or to be there for a family that lost somebody was amazing. Look, she gave me her cough.
I know. I'm better
good.
than I was, but it's still
Yeah.
still a struggle.
Yeah, she was supposed to be here the first week.
First of the
and
month.
We knocked her down to here so that she'd be better, and And you know what? These colds anymore, once they get you, it's just cough, cough, cough.
Well, I'm on two different allergy medicine right now, and it seemed to the second allergy medicine seemed to make a difference. But the crazy thing is, which I still yet to find out, is when I went to the doctors, they took a blood test to see. I never even heard of this, to see if you have allergies. They can't say what allergy it is. It's just they would know. And nowadays you can log into an app or whatever and see your test results. And the results came back from this test, and it said normal is something like 3 to 200 and something, and I was only at 15. So I'm thinking, well, gee, then there must not be allergies. I have no idea what's going on with me. So I apologize,
You're
y'all.
good. But the news just said today was going to be really bad for allergies because things are starting to bloom. So it's getting there, and it sucks. I know, because I never had allergies until I turned 16, and it was the bottle brush that used to be I was living with a friend, and they had a bottle brush right outside the bedroom, and that was the only thing that would set me off. And now everything sets me off. My house sets me off because of the amount of dust that's in it. I need to get up on that and be on top of that. But
So anyway, I want to kind of get back to my recovery and us and things and learning tools. Our fears and our behaviors. One of the very first, it was just so amazing. One of the very first things I learned were the 3 C's, which I know now there's at times multiple C's.
yeah.
But, or more than 3 C's. But for me to hear somebody say that I didn't cause this, I can't control it, and I can't change it, that just was such a big eye-opener for me. Because I was and like to be somebody in control and trying to control the situation. I know what's right. I know what's best. This is what needs to be done.
We lived it. Like we're at an age that we've made those mistakes. We don't want to see you make the same mistakes. And then to find out we can't. Let it roll.
Well, I mean, it was really something for me I never really could say, I never really could understand, or I never thought about it, how the only person I can control is me. I cannot even necessarily influence anybody. I can have a conversation with them and try to understand them and try to, as they say, behaviors make sense. Try to just to learn maybe whys, or get them to be thinking about what they're doing and how it may be affecting them, or are you thinking ahead, like where do you plan to be, or what do you hope to have happen. But learning the tools for us, which I know you and I have talked about, we want to talk about boundaries. And I'll say that I never even really knew what a boundary was.
Right.
I'm like, what? I thought boundaries were rules.
Yeah.
And they're not.
No,
rules.
they're not. And it's funny because I just did this course, and keep going. I'm just going to find it.
Right. So boundaries are not rules. Boundaries, the way I interpret it or see it, is a boundary is something that I do to help take care of myself. The boundary is not to control the other person or to expect any result or from another person. It's all about how the things that I need to feel good about me or the situation. Because guys, we are important. I know how much we love our loved ones who are struggling with whatever it is, and we want to be involved in their life, and we think we have the answers or can, but it creates so much turmoil for us and anxiety and fear and I know that once I could understand these concepts, I literally had too much time on my hands. I was like, what do I do with myself? I had to find me again
Right.
because I had to relinquish my control.
Yeah. Do you know a Bobby Horn? Or is that for the other Marge?
I don't know.
I don't know. It might be the other Marge on the page too. So yeah, it is weird when it's the hardest. The hardest thing is realizing that we don't have any control over it, and we always thought we did, and we didn't realize that, making sure that they were doing what they were supposed to be was like control. Like,
Right.
It's just so weird.
A fake control.
But going with boundaries. What do you mean by boundaries? Boundaries are guidelines, rules, or limits that we identify for ourselves about what we desire in the way of reasonable, safe, and permissible ways for other people to behave around us. Example, I do not want to be subjected to secondhand smoke. I do expect you to pay your share of the rent by the first of the month. Boundaries also include those decisions we make about how we will respond when someone steps outside those limits we have identified. So boundaries are not brick walls. Walls are meant to keep people out. Boundaries are more like fences meant to mark out personal space, rights, and preferences. It is difficult or impossible to have a relationship with someone on the other side of a brick wall. It is easier and very possible to have a healthy relationship with someone on the other side of a gated fence, which makes sense, because I know when we go into meetings, they're like, well, what do you mean by boundaries? And it's like, well, what is,
Well, it means a lot. It means a lot of different things. Just removing yourself from a situation that's not going the way you want. Walking away from it is a boundary. Choosing not to engage in it is a boundary. Putting dinner away when your loved one doesn't show up on time and going and doing what you want to do is a boundary.
Yeah. I have a questionnaire, which is pretty cool because you think about it and you have to realize that this isn't about them. This is about you.
Right. Boundaries are about us to protect us.
So, true or false? I loan money to my loved one, but often do not get repaid. Would that be a boundary for them or for us?
Well, what's the boundary?
What would our boundary be?
The boundary would be to stop lending the money, is the way I say it. Especially if you're not getting if they aren't returning the loan.
Right. So, your boundaries may be being crossed by another. So, you can say, here is $10. I expect that to be paid back by payday.
Right, setting limits to, yes, setting limits to it. Or, now the way that you said that, I have found at times it can be better, or if you say, when will you be able to pay this back? Instead of me saying, all right, I'll lend it to you, but I need it by this time. But that's me, again, kind of
Controlling
a
it.
controlling. But if I can engage them in when they are able to pay me back, then I can hold them accountable because they told me that they would have it or do it by this time.
Right. So I am supporting someone financially who should be able to support him or herself. So
Well, that's enabling, I
That
feel.
would- that
But
would be
how does
like-
that go into boundaries?
right. But what would your boundary be?
That I would stop paying their bills. or well,
Or and it's like listen, say they're going into a recovery house. I can help you the first 2 weeks. But after that, it's now your responsibility.
right.
You know, and that's where we have to set that boundary for ourselves because, you know, manipulation is one of their biggest tools. And well, I'm going to need 4 weeks because I'm going to need more money to put away so I can get out of this house. Well, that's not our goal. Our goal is to be there for as long as it takes for them to get healthy and stronger. But that's up to them to decide that as well. So,
Right, and our boundaries have to be something that we are going to be able to follow through with.
yeah.
So one thing too, when we start talking about this, starting off, because a lot of us are bad at boundaries. So starting off with a small boundary at first. So then you can start feeling good about yourself before you want to say something crazy like, that's it, you go out drinking one more time or don't come home, I'm throwing you out. Like
Right.
that's over the top, and you know darn well that you are not going to throw them out. You're not you're nowhere near strong enough yet because you haven't even been able to get them to do their own wash.
Exactly.
Like, I don't know.
But it is. It's so hard to find those boundaries and to stick with them because if they're not feeling the consequences of of your boundary, and that boundary is for yourself, for your own well-being, for your
Right.
own mental health, because our mental health can be affected really bad.
Oh my gosh, yes. And then and with all that fear and stress and anxiety, you're getting sick.
Yeah. And people don't realize that, and they just like, but I have to make sure that they're doing this. I have to make sure that they're okay. I have to make sure they have money because, you know, what if they you know, go out and they don't have money? Like, well, then they can't get high if they don't have money. So we have to look ahead and say where we need to do for them and where we need to set back. So making that boundary of you have 2 weeks, I can help you with the 2 first weeks. But after that, you have to have a plan for, you know, the rest of that stay. Cuz that's
Right.
that's hard. Or, you know, I can help you with, you know, getting a lawyer, but your plan, you need to plan out how you're going to pay for that lawyer once, you know, we start going to court or what have you. So, you know, helping is not enabling, but continuing that process, that's where we step over that limit, and we have to set that boundary at what point do we step back and say, I can help you here, but you have to take it from there.
Right. I think at times if we can be clear with our feelings too, and not to be a little fuzzy with our lines. And even I can remember times now, I mean, I had somebody in my life that my, how do you want to say? I mean, my
Loved one.
loved one. Yeah, another loved one. But I'm trying to think how to word it without
Yeah.
sharing totally.
Right.
Oh man, I lost my train of thought.
It's their story. It is, and it's hard. It's hard when we try to protect that anonymity, and
I was trying to say with it, it's sometimes hard. It gets blurry. Our lines can be blurry, and I can remember for me, because somebody that I was romantically involved with, I'll put it that way. I was romantically involved with who had a drinking problem, and my boundaries would be blurry because I was afraid of the consequences that I would feel from their behavior.
yeah, and we have to remember that, especially with our loved ones, consequences can hit both parties.
Right.
You know, and it is up to us, the loved ones that are trying to help our loved one through this, to feel their natural consequence without it affecting us, which is a very fine line, because you know everything that happens affects both of us,
Yeah.
and we need to find that that place where they're feeling it, but we can feel good about them feeling it. You know, nobody wants to see their loved one go to jail. Nobody wants to see their loved one, face court or jail time, or we don't want to we don't want to see our loved ones face that, but sometimes that is something, a boundary we have to set. Like, we have to make that call to a parole officer, maybe, because we're seeing how sickly and how deep they're getting into their addiction, and it's out of our control. There's nothing we can do about it, but a natural consequence if somebody comes up to us and say, are they here or something, like, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
that's,
Stop lying for them.
yeah, and stop paying for them. People they'll be down the way, and they get their car repossessed because they were either found with drugs or selling drugs or what have you. It's up to them to figure out how to get that vehicle back. It's Unless it's your vehicle, then it's a whole different ball game. But I see that a lot in our meetings, like the consequence that hit us. Like, it's not fair to us to have to take that brunt. And what are we willing to do for it not to affect us?
I think you're right. It's going to affect us, but still, we need to change. If we change the way that we react to it, eventually change will happen. Like an example for that would be, husband comes home drunk or high or whatever it may be, and you don't want to be there when they come home that way.
Mm-hmm.
So you leave, and you could be in your car leaving, like, why do I have to leave? This is ridiculous. It's my house, and it just isn't fair that I've got to leave because
Right.
he's home in the condition he is, And yeah, we feel a consequence over that, but if we can realize that if we can persevere, the hope is that when they realize that we're removing ourselves from you,
Right.
that we are serious about this. We do not and will not tolerate this behavior
Right.
anymore. And yeah, and I will leave. I will, even if it's, I don't know, go to the mall or go to your girl. I don't know.
Girlfriend's
We all
house.
have to figure out that place that we can
Right.
go to. Even if you just get in your car and go down the street and I don't know, sit in your car for an hour or two,
Or, you know, or be able to go to your room and read a book and just shut it out. Like, I know you went out, you have great time with your friends, and that's great, that's fine. But I need to sit back, and I need to, you know, I want to sit back and read a book. I don't want to be subjected to the effects of your drinking or drugging. So I'll be up in my room reading. Like,
and that's a boundary.
Yeah, we have to set that for ourselves, not for them, for ourselves. Take us, like you said, out of that situation. And for loved ones that are out there that may be in a situation where it's also violent, you know, abusive, whether it's verbal or physical. You know, we have to set a plan. We
Yes.
have to have, you know, money, meds, clothes, anything that would be needed for a couple of days, and a safety plan. Can we, you know, put something at our neighbor's house so that if we have to leave, we can knock on the door so they know that there's a problem, so somebody's aware of it. You get your bag and you go. Or if your loved one doesn't have access to your car, to keep that bag in the trunk so that you have an escape plan. And making sure somebody's aware of what is going on so that, you know, if they follow you or what have you. And find that person that they're not familiar with so that you have somewhere to go that they don't know about. So, you know, maybe going to your sister's house, that's the first place they're going to, you know, check.
Right. Yeah,
you
check
know.
mom or dad's
Right.
siblings.
So maybe you're close with a coworker that they don't really know you have that kind of a relationship, you know, go over there. Have enough money for a hotel room for a couple of, you know, for a few days, just to make sure that you're safe, and that's a boundary that you set for yourself. If it's something that is consistent and happens often, I think you really need to,
Really need to look at yourself and why, and ask yourself, why are you still tolerating this? Really, because guys, you are important, and you deserve happiness.
yeah, we do,
And life doesn't have to be all suffering for somebody else.
no, and it's, you know, it's so weird because you know, I believe in God and everything. That's just who I am. You know, I believe there's something out there, and I don't go to church every Sunday, so you know, when this started to affect me, I have found my spiritual self again. Like, I'm, you know, really connecting with, you know, praying and you know, asking for guidance, because that's important, that we know somebody's there, whether they're, you know, they're in our face or they're not. You know, having somebody, just getting it out and talking to, I don't care who it is, air, clouds, whatever, a higher power, God, whatever it takes. And, you know, letting our loved with, like, we're so afraid that, oh, if we say anything, they're going to get pissed and they're going to get angry. But if we don't say anything, it's just going to continuously happen and go on. So we need to set that boundary for us. Is this something that I need to talk to them about? And if you do, don't do it while they're
Under the influence.
under the influence, because pointless. Pointless. But that's important for us to decide what is important for us and what is important for them to know about their drinking and drugging that we're not really happy with, and discuss that while they're, in a sober state, because
Right, and then that also opens up a whole nother toolbox of how to
Exactly.
communicate,
yeah,
and not be communicating in a way where you're expressing your feelings, where you're not pointing a finger, because everybody, I mean, you're pointing fingers, and then there's three pointing back at you when you're pointing your. We all have heard that before,
Yeah,
right?
100
And people
times.
get defensive too, and when people get defensive, then the communication is not. Effective. Because then, that's another tool, is learning how to.
and it is, and Marge says setting boundaries is one thing, keeping them is another, and that's why we said Marge said earlier, like, we have to start out small. We really do, because we have to build our strength in order to add to those boundaries,
Right.
till we can get the boundary where, we can discuss the I statements, the we statements, so that we're not blaming them.
No.
We just need them to see what we're going through, what we're feeling, and what we need for ourselves.
Right.
And that's something sometimes that they don't really understand. And that is a text with somebody. Communication is their weakness. And it is.
Whose weakness?
It's the loved one's weakness.
Yeah, it may very well be. So again, that opens up the conversation. Is this a good time to talk about
X,
Blah,
Y,
blah,
and
blah.
Z. Yeah.
if we invite the person into a conversation, chances are it will be more effective than if we force a conversation on somebody.
Exactly. And finding that right time. Like, time is of the essence with this, because, it's hard, because sometimes addiction is like a 24-hour thing.
Right.
So-
it's gotten pretty bad then if you're at that point.
Yeah. And that's where you have to set strong boundaries of, what are you willing to live with? That's what it comes down to.
So read another one on your list.
Okay, so my loved one lies to me, covers up the truth of his or her activities. That would be their boundary, because they're lying to themselves. Like, that goes on them. That doesn't go on us. We know they're lying. I mean, we don't have to say you're lying. We know it. So that would be a definite boundary for them. Like, they have to live with that lie and the consequence of that lie. So I fail to speak up when I am being treated poorly.
Well, the boundary would be, how are you going to what's the word I want to think of? First I was like protect, but that's not protect. You don't want to be treated or talked to badly, just like cursing. At
Right.
times when people curse at me, I say to them, I ask them, I go, will you please not do that? And if they were to continue to curse, well, then I'll just walk away.
Right, right.
That's my boundary.
Exactly. And that is like the best tool there is to walk away.
Or I can say to them, listen, this is really not going where I want it to. I don't like the way this conversation's going.
Mhm.
Can we talk about this another time?
Exactly.
Boundary is I've stopped the communication.
Mm-hmm. And you can. I call it the ring, the boxing ring, like ding ding. I'm taking my corner. Let's, stop, reflect on what we're saying, and we'll come back to it. We'll come back to that conversation. Because that's important, because it's not going to be constructive if you're sitting there, it's my way and not your way. Like, it's just a fight. So just stop it. Just stop it, walk away, and come back to it. And another thing is, like, going back and telling them exactly what they're saying to you so that they hear it and understand.
Reflective listening.
Oh my gosh.
Did you just say what?
Yeah, it is reflect. Like,
Right.
Oh my God, that sounded really stupid. Now that it's being said back to me, that was stupid. So, let's see.
Another thing that happens when you do that, which I'm not the best at doing that, but at times when you try to get somebody, did you just say this or this or that? And then the person will come back and elaborate more. So now you're learning more, because what you say when you reflect back to them, it's like, no, that's not what I was trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, because some things can be taken more than one way.
Mm-hmm.
And they just want to be heard. We want to be heard.
We want to be heard too.
And it's important that we hear them too. That's important. But if they give you the silent treatment, that's narcissist manipulation or shame. If they're giving you the silent treatment, it's because they're not ready to.
That's their boundary. That's
Right.
their boundary now. Who knows
Yeah.
where the conversation's going?
Exactly. And you know what? Sometimes we need that. Sometimes we have to do that and walk away because we see that it's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's just causing more chaos. And we're trying to get away from the chaos. That's what our goal is, to stop the chaos, because our loved ones keep us in the chaos, because if we're in the chaos, they can manipulate. And once you get in this and you're the family member and you learn the word manipulation and what it's all about, we learn how to shut it down. And the only way we're going to do that is to stop the chaos. I frequently agree to do things in order to keep the peace or to please others. I do that a lot.
People pleaser?
Mm-hmm.
We're people pleasers, yep.
Yeah. And I do it because, some days you're just tired of the chaos, and it's just, whatever, just do it. And, and who does that affect? Me. So that's my consequence. I have to live with, not getting my feelings across. So,
Can you read that again?
I frequently agree to do things in order to keep the peace or to please others.
So does that mean that you do things to keep the peace or please others when you would really be wanting to do something else?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But we all have that, because, it could be at work, a coworker because you're just tired of seeing them like getting up to go and have 15 cigarettes, and you're doing their job because you want to get out on time. Like, so it, we were affected by that, because then we go home and we live with that resentment because,
Because we didn't speak up for ourselves.
hmm yeah, we have to watch that because, um, my loved one has been responsible for causing damage or theft of my property. That's our consequence because we're allowing it.
Right.
So we have to set that consequence for that action. That is definitely a boundary we have to set
Yes.
because.
And that's one of them tough ones. We got to work our way up to that one.
Exactly, because when they punch a hole in the wall, we're like, well, I should have never said that. I pissed them off, and if I had not said that, I wouldn't have the hole in the wall. So now we have to say that's unacceptable behavior. And how are we going to redo that for ourselves?
Again, I guess we're back to the conversation and how to handle conversations. And even though we will try to have better conversations at times, I mean, we're all human. At times, something will happen. We all know each other's triggers. And we're going to say something that's really going to piss you off. And then
Yeah,
and that's when we really have to recognize this, guys, and just stop.
right. Eric says standing at 8 count. Marge says, I'm not trying to interrupt, but do you ladies have any info on Vivitrol shot and discount if insurance doesn't pay? Asking for a friend watching. Thanks. Vivitrol, I think, is an amazing tool. Whoever they went through treatment with, they should reach out to them, or call the number on the back of their card. It's just, you have to, actually, you don't have to, they have to, be vigilant in, being an advocate for themselves and finding out, calling different doctors. The best thing I could say is to reach out to their treatment center, because they'll be able to help with that. And Vivitrol is an amazing tool. It will help your loved one only if they are doing opiates or alcohol. However, they can decide to do change their drug of choice, so they would still get high and it would be pointless, because it's no longer blocking what it's supposed to block. Vivitrol, again, is only for opiates and alcohol. They can continue to drink on that. They will not get the euphoric feeling that they're looking for, but they will still be slurring their words. They will still be,
Can they get alcohol poisoning if they through that? Because they won't even realize how much
Right.
alcohol they've drank.
Exactly. Oh, you can, get very deathly ill from that, like doing that. And again, you can overdose with Vivitrol because you're not feeling the effect of it, but you're still putting, and a lot of people will try and say, how much can I do? So,
Now,
it should fentanyl. It should block fentanyl because fentanyl is an opiate. It should work for fentanyl.
I would believe so.
However, fentanyl is very strong, so it would probably override that. And again, you're looking at potential overdose.
Now, I've never heard of primary doctors, general practice doing Vivitrol. It's always been something that's through a treatment program.
Exactly.
It's not something. Or wait, or is there? Wait, there was a mom. There was a mom. I think her son was seeing some sort of a doctor outside of a treatment center for a Vivitrol. But if I remember right, though, they weren't too like he was kind of a shady doctor doing it.
Yeah, and that could be. However, some doctors have taken the education part to be able to provide that for a patient that they are treating. But for the most part, not many of them do it. So, again, I would go back to the treatment center and start there. That would be my best suggestion. And ask those questions, because like I just know what I've heard and what I have been hearing about it. So I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on the show either.
Disclaimer.
Yes.
We have no formal education here, just life experience.
Just life experience. Hey, Sandy, glad you're here. Glad you made it to Memphis. See you on Monday. I'll be picking you up from the airport. That's my sister. She's coming in for the week. So, let's see. I give and give and give in this relationship, and in return, I get less and less and less.
Well, that's something, a boundary for us to set.
Mm-hmm.
Because you start feeling taken advantage of, used, not appreciated.
And what does that leave you with? Resentment.
Resentment, you're drained,
Mm-hmm.
anger.
Yep. And let's see, I don't give any thought to my own happiness. And we don't.
I know, we put our loved ones ahead of our needs, and that's not healthy, gang.
No, it's not.
And I've been there, done that. And it took me, I mean,
yeah, Pat plays the doctor. I don't.
What?
Paps plays the doctor. And that is, you get so caught up in all of their stuff that you're no longer seeing friends.
Right.
You're no longer visiting with family members, because gosh forbid they might ask what you're doing or how they're doing. And before
you start to isolate.
Yep. And that's it. You don't leave the house. You don't talk to anybody, because all you're getting is voicemails. They're getting voicemails because you don't want to talk to anybody. And we have to set that boundary that we come first. We have to come first, because if we are not putting ourselves first, then we will always be holding on to that resentment. We really, and you don't realize that until you start getting into these support groups and learning and educating yourself on how much time is lost just chasing our drug, which is them.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said, when I started to let go, I had all this time. I had all this time on my hands, and I didn't know what. Really, I was like, "What am I going to do? Who am I now? What is Marge going to do? How is because I was always involved. I was way involved that I shouldn't have been so involved.
Mm-hmm. And that's, and like, I feel bad for Richard, because we've always been involved, like with the band, the scouts, the whole thing, and now recovery's here, and here I am.
Well,
He can't even have that, like, so I stay away from the music. I want him to have something, like, and him growing up was like, just have another kid, leave me alone, like, because I was the helicopter mom. I was hovering, and oh my God, he fell down and he skinned his knee, like, let's get to the hospital, like, it's a skinned knee, like, Lord, back up, let him feel some of this shit, like. So we really have to find our friends. We have to find our interests,
mm-hmm.
our likes, and get out there with friends and family, and pray for the best. That's all we can do is hope for the best. Right. Then if you're away from them, the addict, you feel like you can't breathe or function. This is why you have to let go and let God. Easier said than done, but it will get better if you put yourself first. You have to. In everything. Like, even if you're married and you have a great relationship, we still need to find that
Balance.
yeah, we need to have girlfriends. We need to have activities outside of our relationship, because we may not have the same interests, and you can't give up your interests because they don't have the same interest as you. So we have to find our own inner peace. That is like healthy, whether you're dealing with a loved one suffering from addiction or not. That is very important for us. My loved one sometimes disappears for long periods of time without making contact. That's a hard one. It is.
Oh yeah.
But and it's a hard one because the worriment comes in.
Yep, catastrophizing.
Mm-hmm. And then, what are they doing? Are they okay? Did they, like, if they are, they are, and there's nothing we can do about it. Again, it's their consequence, not, there's nothing, we have to set that boundary that we have to step back, let them know we're there and that we love them, but we need to go live our lives, because
Well, sometimes this can be your husband or wife too.
mm-hmm.
That disappears.
Yep.
Not just your children
Your
that you've lost
yeah.
communication with. And the husband or the wife has responsibilities that now that they've done in the house, and they're not around, and you've got to cover for them.
Yeah. And that's,
And then
well, where's he at? Oh, he's sick in bed. He's got a headache. Oh, he's had a headache for 3 days. Like, we have to stop. We have to stop. We have to set that boundary for them.
well, that's a tough one, because if they do, especially the first time that they take off on you, and well, it'll end up being a pattern. It will become a pattern,
Right.
and then we all have to figure out how is it that we're going to manage our life when they do that, because they could have the car too. There could be only one car in the house, and now you're without a vehicle.
Or they're using and they have a vehicle, and what's consequences come from that if, God forbid, something happens, and they're in the family vehicle and, you know, there's an accident, a DUI, there's so many consequences that can come back on the family home, that, you know.
Yeah, I don't know what the consequence if you call to say that this unauthorized use of my car is that the same as stealing it? I have no idea, but I mean, I think or I feel that it's a way to cover your ass, though.
Because that is like, okay, we're getting in their way by calling the police, but you're calling the police because now you know they're in your vehicle, and now they're putting an innocent family, or another person, excuse me, in harm's way. So you calling the police to say unauthorized use of my vehicle, like that's in,
I found this on the web.
oh, sorry. That's not what I want. So I'm just opening this up because I do have somebody that is texting in. My husband used to take my car when we only had one car. I would
Yeah, it
have to
happens.
miss work. What a consequence for us. And what a hard boundary that is to make. Like, um, now, not only are you, you know, sitting back and thinking and worrying, now your life is being affected because it's a spouse. So if you're not working, they're out using the money that pays the
Loss
rent,
of
the
income.
mortgage. Like, that is just a spiral that affects every aspect of your life. And this is where you have to get that strong boundary. Like, what are you going to do? How long are you going to put up with this? That is that's going to be a tough one,
Yeah.
because you
Yeah,
know.
because stuff like that then ends up being a real pattern,
Mhm.
and then we end up getting screwed. So.
Mhm. And then we have kids involved. You know, God forbid there's young children that, you know, count on that car to get them to baseball, dance, you know, football. There's a second person in that household being affected by one person's, um,
Selfishness.
yeah. So we have to be careful of that, because we have to be strong. I mean, really strong, to be able to set the limit of what you can deal with. Like, you're losing sleep, you're losing your job, especially if it becomes that pattern. So that's a horrible one. It's a hard one. I frequently feel angry in response to my loved ones' behaviors. And that's on us. That's on us, because we're allowing them to um, get into our heads and get into our space.
Right. We can control our reactions and our feelings.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be easy, especially if they're pulling our strings, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's not helpful.
I feel like I can't make plans because my loved one is so unpredictable. Just go. Like, stop living your life. That is a boundary. And if say you have a wedding coming up, and you know your loved one's going to be getting hammered on, you know, the open bar, there's your boundary. You're not coming. There is no plus one. It's just me. Like, you have to protect yourself, and you shouldn't have to give up what you want to do because your loved one is unpredictable.
And it could be even just something as to taking a family day trip.
Mm-hmm.
And they may be hungover and not even be able to get out of bed, or whatever they just rolled through the door, and it's 8 o'clock in the morning, and you were expecting to be leaving with the family.
Yeah.
Again,
Leave.
Yeah.
Leaves. Don't put your life on hold because they're being selfish with, their time. My loved one puts lives at risk by driving while under the influence. There's so many things that can happen to your home. If you don't have good coverage, they come running out. They could end up in jail, prison, if God forbid they hurt somebody or kill someone. So that affects the whole family. And I say I'd be on the phone with the police, but then I'm not in that situation, so it's hard to say. And I know how hard it is when you're not in that situation, but I know where I would be if I was.
And a lot of people aren't necessarily have the budget or want to do Uber or Lyft
Exactly.
instead.
I can only be happy if my loved one is doing well. Otherwise, I'm anxious. That again is on you, because you can live your life while your loved one is out there doing what they're doing. Don't stop your life because your loved one's not figuring it out yet.
I used to think I was only as happy as my as my saddest child, I guess, or and that is so wrong to think about. You can't be letting other people's actions to have that kind of effect on you. I know we all have hopes and dreams, again, are something else that can create problems, but they were my hopes and dreams in reality. They weren't my loved ones' hopes and dreams. And that's really tough for us at times to accept.
It is.
Not all of our kids are going to be pro soccer players or football. They're not going to be the big athlete. They're not going to be
God
the
forbid
genius.
they don't be the president.
They're not going to They're not going to that's so hard, especially when it comes to our children, and we see their potential, but again, we don't have the control over that.
Right. And you know what? They just need to be happy.
Yes.
They just need to be happy. So, I'm sorry, but you're not going to be, the actor on the screen. You're going to be, a mechanic. Be a mechanic. Like, if that's what is your goal and that's what keeps you happy, then that's what you need to do. We have to stop projecting our wants for our loved ones. We have to do what we need to do for ourselves. And that's hard. We only have 15 minutes, so
really, that went fast.
My loved one is emotionally unavailable much or all of the time. Well,
usually when the addiction gets pretty bad at that point.
Yes, that they are. My loved one does not accept responsibility for any household chores. That's on you because you didn't set that boundary. And, these are things that you have to talk to your loved one about. Here we go again, Eric. I don't know what you're doing. A successful addict has to have a narcissistic lie for every triage of garbage they spew. It seems like reality to them, so they strive to turn shit into gold. And I don't know why sometimes it doesn't come up on my thingy here, so it's not coming up on here, and it's hard for me to read, but they do. They
Yeah, I knew one who was the habitual chronic liar. Yeah.
uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is.
And
It's
the
crazy.
stories were unbelievable.
Very unbelievable. I don't feel like I'm thriving, only surviving.
That's truly what ends up happening, and that's the way we feel when we don't set our boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
That is what's going to happen.
That's us crossing our own boundary. My loved one is verbally or physically abusive. I mean, that's just unacceptable. And that's where we have to decide if it is physical abuse, we need to get out of that situation. If it's verbal, shame on us, walk away and let them know our feeling towards that when they are sober. But verbal can really have a mental effect on us. And
Right, because
keep
it makes you
us-
feel as though you're not worthy of anything.
Right. And it can make us sick and make us really, hate ourselves. So,
We start thinking that we're to blame
mm-hmm.
for what's happening.
Mm-hmm. My loved one expects me to be a backup alarm for work, school, if he or she oversleeps. Oh, well, there's a consequence.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Mhm.
about like no, you don't lie, you don't go making phone calls or that's the enabling thing. If you are the person that is calling their work and making excuses for them, that's enabling. When we do things for our loved ones who should be doing it for themselves.
Right. Margie says, what about questioning someone when you have evidence? It almost makes you wonder how someone who loves you can lie right to your face, but it's the drugs, not the person. So sad. I can tell you that somebody that is in addiction could put out a line of whatever, snort it right in front of you, and you can say, I can't believe you just snorted that line right in front of me. And they're going to say, I just wrote a check. I wasn't snorting a line. Are you nuts?
Yeah, they'll deny it. Yes.
Like I literally just watched you. Like I'm right here and you're right there. No, I was writing a check. I was writing a note.
Choose our battles.
Yeah.
So why you want to go there?
Yeah.
I mean, we
You
know.
know.
We know what's it gonna what good is gonna come of that.
Mm-hmm. Walk away, because if you're not, if you're not going to set that consequence, then there's no point in, mentioning it, because sorry, you just did a line in front of me. That was, a boundary of mine. You need to leave. You chose to cross that boundary, and now this is the consequence we came up with for that action. So they're going to lie to your face. It's happening. It's happening. There's nothing you can do about it to change it. So they're going to lie because that's what they do. My loved one doesn't clean up after him or herself. That's on us, because we're not setting that boundary and letting them feel that consequence.
That's a tough one because I like to keep the house clean. So if they were leaving their dishes laying around, I mean, if it was a kid's room, you're living in the
It's-
filthy room.
it's you that
That's
and
shut
and
the
that's
door
all
and
I
that's
always said that. Do you see this bedroom, this door here? That's your responsibility. That is not a chore. That is not helping me. Taking the trash out, mowing the lawn, dusting. That is, helping the family. Your bedroom, you want to sit in squalor, sit in squalor. That's your responsibility. I'm not going to give you kudos. But
if they're leaving here, so what's an idea of how to correct that or fix that? Maybe you don't have dishes anymore and you start buying all paper products, so you just can get thrown out.
you
Maybe
can't.
then whoever's not cleaning up after themselves can't have their ice cream in a, I don't know, paper bowl.
Good luck with that. Have you seen the prices of paper products?
I don't know. I'm just trying to.
Yeah, I mean, but that's something that has to be discussed. Like, these are the rules of the house. This is what I expect. This is our home. This is not our flop house. This is our home. And this is what I expect. But you do need to have that consequence if it's not being done. But that's your boundary to set.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your boundary that you need to find a consequence for.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, it's a tough one, trust me. My loved one does not follow through on promises.
Yep, that stinks when you can't rely on them.
and if they're using, you're
Then
not.
You stop. You stop even putting them in a situation where you have to rely on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, it's like you end up being all by yourself at that point.
You do.
Because you're not, it's not a team. It's not a partnership. It's at that point, they are just caring about themselves.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I have another. There it is. How do you get to the point where you are now from the tough situation of being manipulated, lied to, anxious, etc.? What steps did you take? How do you get to the point where you are now from the tough situations of being manipulated, lied to, anxious, etc.? What steps did you take? Well, for myself, I know that going to support meetings and hearing the suggestions that others had made,
Right, yeah.
and taking the suggestions that I thought would work for me and implementing them, and if they didn't work, then I took another suggestion. I didn't take every suggestion that was offered to me. Education, like I said, when I was going through this with my loved one, I was very fortunate that the anonymity was lifting. And there were so many different events going on, different, like I said, town hall meetings, school lectures, the rehabs, the treatment centers were really open to doing community events and sharing their experience. And education is the biggest tool we have to help get us through this.
Yep.
And you start with contact your treatment centers. That's where I got my help, like your community treatment centers. Call them up and ask, what do they have available in the area? You have Narnine, you have Al-Anon, you have Smart Recovery, you have Celebrate Recovery, that's a religious base. You have Buddhist, was it Buddhist? I know it's not Buddhist, but it's something. But, you know, you have to find the meeting that fits with you. When I first started with all of this, the first thing I went to was the Beginners Al-Anon. Now, my loved one's addiction was not alcohol. Little did I know that it was also, but it was hard for me to connect with that because it wasn't alcohol. You're so right. Knowledge is freedom. Then the next meeting I went to was a Nar-Anon meeting, which I love Nar-Anon. I love the tools of Nar-Anon. I'm not comfortable with the meeting, the fellowship of it. But I took a lot of information from that. I read a lot of Nar-Anon, and I use a lot of Nar-Anon knowledge. The treatment center that my loved one was at had a different type of meeting, which is Livingren, and it's a crosstalk, and that resonated with me. And like our therapist at Livingren said, you know, if you need to find something to help you through this, support's the number one thing. That's what you need to do. We have a caller, but that support is number one. Hello, caller.
Hello, this is Patricia from California.
Hello there. That's my mother.
Oh. Hi, Patricia.
Hello. Anyway, I was wondering, are you on next week?
Yes,
It's Good Friday.
it's good, Lori.
Oh my gosh, it's Good Friday next Friday? Wow.
Yeah, yes. I hope you got your Easter ham.
My
Yes.
Easter ham's on its way from QVC.
Yeah.
From QVC.
Bob is our guest next week, and yep, we'll be here Friday.
Okay, just checking in.
Yep,
Love you.
love you too.
And tell Christine hi.
I will.
Okay, love you.
Love you. Bye bye.
Hey, what about Barb? How's she doing?
She's doing good.
Good.
She has to get up very early, so she's
I know.
she's doing very good. I will.
Well, tell her I'm asking.
I
for her.
will. I will.
Okay.
All right.
Love
Take
you.
care. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
But support is the number one.
Yes.
And quite frankly, this is the hardest thing. Like, take that support that is in your area, and don't be afraid to walk in. Because I mean, it's the hardest thing you're going to do is walk into a support meeting. It's so hard.
Because you're afraid of who you're going to say.
Little did she know.
And right, you don't. But we got to realize that the people that are going to be in that room are in the same place as you.
They are. And remember, if it's a neighbor, they already knew that your loved one had the addiction before you did, because they're the ones watching them, sneak out and do all that stuff. So there's your support. And if you are just too ashamed and embarrassed to get to that meeting, then take a friend. They don't have to be in it. But the education part of this is so, so, so important, and I cannot say that enough. And the greatest thing about this right now is there's so many Zoom meetings that you don't even have to go to a meeting, and you get to, feel it out. I I myself think it's great because, during COVID, I could make dinner and not have to rush around. So I would Zoom and make dinner at the same time. Like, what are we making tonight, Lori?
Yeah, yeah. I didn't have any. I still do Zooms. I
Yeah.
still do.
And I like the hug. I like that. I just like to be around people. That's just who I am. I'm a people person. So I may not like most people, but no, I'm kidding. I I like to be out there. I like to help people. So and call me. 267-737-8031. I'm always available to, chat with. I have some pretty neat things that are on my page that can help you through it as well. So, just reach out. Reach out to your community. Reach out to your treatment centers and see what they have available. Look up Nar-Anon, look up Al-Anon, look up the literature because you can find so much literature out there. I just got certified in Smart Recovery, and I really do like Smart Recovery, which is also follows the base of the craft.
Community reinforcement and family training.
Yes.
Can I do my plug?
Yes.
The partnership, drugfree.org. It's a national organization. They have a fantastic website.
Thanks, John.
With all kinds of resources, videos, lessons.
It is. And that was the first thing that I was certified in was craft. And I suck at it because I do.
Well, we have to. We have to work at it. It's not easy.
We do. We have to work at it, but they tell you that you have a certain amount of time with a person and then you hand them off, and it's so hard.
Oh, that
and
part.
I'm still with my first person. I'm still with my first person. So, I just find this being my cup of tea, like this and my family group that I still 7.5 years have been attending. So
well, you were talking about getting educated. That's why I just wanted to plug that website because there is a lot of good tools on their website.
Yeah.
Drugfree.org.
Yes, or you can also look at smartrecovery.org. You can look up Nar-Anon, Al-Anon. There are so many things. And another one that I love is Be a Part of the Conversation.
Oh my gosh, love them. And they've got such great stuff on their website too.
Yeah, so be part of the conversation. Even if it's not in your area, I think they have Zooms, they have podcasts.
They're doing both.
Like there's so much. So if you need help, just let me know and I will help you, go through and find these places. So it always goes so fast, but
Yeah, I'm surprised.
yes, it's 10:32, and we will be here next Friday. Bob will be here. He is always, jumping in to help the next person. So join us next Friday with Bob Matthews, and have a great week. Have a great Easter, right?
Well,
Well,
you'll
no,
see,
I have-
you'll see
oh, yeah,
everybody
you'll
before that.
Yeah, okay. So get out there and get your Easter ham because it's coming up. And we'll see you here next Friday. Everybody, you have a great night and a great week. If you are struggling, please give me a call, 267-737-8031. I am here, I am listening, and I am willing to help the next person. And as Pappy says, recovery works if you work it.
Yes, and you're important.
Yes, you are very important. You matter too. And everybody, with that being said, see you here next Friday, 9 to 10:30. Peace out.